Soccer 605 here with Becky Janssen, the head girls coach at Roosevelt. Girls are looking pretty good for only being here for a few days.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I was initially very pleased with, was even during team camp, just how well incoming freshmen and sophomores who hadn't been around the varsity girls just mixed together really well and seemed like they'd already been playing together for a bit. So there's not a lot of holes or gaps that we need to fix, so it's good.
A lot of the girls, especially in the varsity, have been together for quite a while. And I mean, you lost some extremely good players to graduation, but you're returning probably the best senior class, or the biggest senior class anyway.
Yeah, this year is definitely a year that we should be able to make a lot of headway there for the program. 11 seniors at the program, so hopefully we can do what those girls deserve to have after 3 years heavily dedicated to the program, and we can send them off on their way with some success for the season. So,
a lot of teams are always looking for a little bit of senior leadership. So how do you juggle having 11 seniors who, and a lot of your girls are leaders? How do you juggle that? Who's going to step up and be the leader?
well, it does kind of depend on personalities, and they lead in different ways. I mean, we do have some quiet seniors that are fine just kind of stepping back. We have a couple of seniors that lead in a more nurturing way, and so we're having them kind of focus more on the future of the program and making sure those girls are comfortable with being riders. And then, we've got leaders like the Beam twins that are just very hard-nosed and to the point, and that's the kind of leadership that I like. But then even, besides seniors, we've got, a junior like Cassidy Erickson, who even as a sophomore was very vocal on the field, and I've been working with her since she was just a little 5-year-old, so I know what's going on in that little noggin of hers, and that's the kind of vocalism and the philosophies and things we're trying to do with the program. So we've got leadership all over the place, and so far we're having a good time mixing the leadership up. There isn't too many people in charge, not enough followers sort of thing, but we'll see. Anything can happen still.
I think that's going to matter a lot, the leader, and just having, some players who have a lot of experience and especially leadership, because I don't think I've ever seen the top 6 teams in girls ever have as much parity as we're seeing this year.
Yeah, the funny thing with girls high school soccer too is still anything can happen, because you look at the rosters and you see, oh, so and so players are coming back and they've got so many freshmen and they've got so many, but every game is a clean slate essentially in girls high school soccer. You never know what's going to happen, and everyone's just going to have to be ready for every game, because it's all going to be a battle.
And it's been so nice seeing, especially last year, since we had all the schools sanctioned, the level of interest and the level of exposure and recognition the kids are getting in the school.
And that has definitely been a high point, last year, just having more fans at the games. Now, granted, the change in the school year, we have 7 games before school even starts. So half the season, so now we're going to have to try to get creative to see how can we get that school support besides just the administration and financially and that sort of thing, so that we have our fellow student body, they're there supporting the girls in the way that we had gotten accustomed to last year. So
yeah, well, some will make it and some won't, but it's going to be I think a very good season. I've been wondering this year about you stepping into the program last year. With Clay Glasgow, haven't been here so long, very popular coach. How has that transition been? Good, and what has been some of the difficulty about that transition?
Well, good, obviously, because, the players can benefit from some different coaching styles and coaching mentalities, definitely every few years, the typical, model of player development. And with a girls team, I think especially it can just be more difficult having a change in personnel, because now they're having to get used to somebody new. Clay and I are similar in a lot of coaching styles and what we want to do with the girls, but how we get them to do those things. He is not as hard-nosed of a coach, I would say, at times. He's a bit more relaxed, but in that relaxed, fun manner can get the girls to do what he's asking them to. I'm a lot more hard-nosed. I'm a lot more, not screaming or violent or anything like that, but just much more similar coaching style to what a guys program, I guess, would be used to, since that was kind of how I was raised as a player, was that sort of hard-nosed yelling mentality. And that's some eggshells to walk on with the girls program, because you don't want to come in too hard too fast and for the girls to just kind of write you off or roll their eyes or just be like, oh, But so last year was kind of that season where we felt each other out, and now they know that while I coach like that, that's just me on the field, and we're different off. And so the relationships already this year, it's better, and I'm excited, and we all get each other a lot more now. So it's going to be pretty cool to see what we can as a coaching staff get these girls to do now that they're used to us.
Speaking of coaching staff, I see a new face out here. Of course, you have Angie with the JVs again. What a great coach she is and a great asset. You know, having been at USF, and tell us about your new guy.
Yeah, we got actually Mike Greco to come in and volunteer for us, and he's actually a guy that I knew since I still run academy up in Watertown when they opened up the technical or the director position up there. We helped to get him brought in from SoCal, and I know he just has a wealth of knowledge and experience and coaching education and just all these things that the area needs. And we are fortunate to be able to get him to jump on our staff. And I personally am excited to even just learn a bunch from him, because I know there's plenty of areas that I need to continue to grow and develop. And what better resource than to have Mike, who knows so much about the game and how to interact with the players differently and get them to do things in a different manner. And even today's session that he kind of ran for me while I was at the head coaches meeting, you could see the girls just responding to him differently, and that's good. So they're not getting used to the same thing. So.
Well, you know, and he kind of comes from a much bigger pond than we have here in South Dakota. So, I mean, what he's seen the last 15 years is a lot different than what we're seeing here most of the time. And I think that's a huge asset, not only for Roosevelt, but for South Dakota.
Absolutely. It's great to get some new people to come in here. You know, if we're constantly having the Sioux Falls and just the South Dakota people rotating through the system, that's all the good old boys and the local people, and that's good up to a point, but you need some fresh faces, some fresh ideas. That was kind of the situation I was in when I moved here 10 years ago from Chicago, and now I guess I'm kind of a South Dakotan to a point, but yeah, getting somebody like Mike to come in here now to kind of flip things on its head and say, well, here are a bunch of different ways to do things and to move the ball and get the girls inspired, and it's going to be really awesome to have him on staff. We're pumped.
Well, you've made some changes, but you've made us a little bit more Chicago too here in South Dakota. So I want to thank you for that.
Always a good thing. Glad to bring the sweet home Chicago into South Dakota. So.
Well, Becky, thanks a lot for hanging with us a little bit. The girls are looking great. We can't wait to get this thing kicked off and see the kind of fruit that these practices are going to bear for them.
It's going to be a great season. Go Riders!